Folks, Red Alert here with some truth regarding the witch hunt against Donald Trump. You might have witnessed the media working as a monolith on this story. Georgia's Fulton County has returned 10 indictments against Donald Trump and his alleged associates. Trump has been indicted but not convicted, yet the media coverage around the matter is already framing it as if Trump has been found guilty.
And they had this extraordinary hour-long conversation. Donald Trump thought he was going to lose Georgia, which he was, and then he's pressuring the Secretary of State there, Raffensperger, to find me 11,870 votes. Basically, if you can do that, I can win. Cut me some slack.
So, John, how serious are these charges that have just been laid out when compared to the other charges that he's facing elsewhere?
Well, the grand jury has said that they believe that these 19 people, including Donald Trump, were part of an illegal attempt to overthrow an election. She's calling for them to voluntarily surrender themselves, which of course has the implication that if you don't voluntarily surrender, the police will come and get you.
Former President Donald J. Trump has been criminally indicted in the state of Georgia in a prosecution brought by the Fulton County District Attorney, Fani Willis.
Remember, Biden won this state by less than 0.25%. That's 0.2%. And because Donald Trump had his doubts about the fairness of the count, he refused to accept the loss. Now he's being tried as a potential felon simply because he believed that a 0.2% vote margin isn't enough. Trump insisted on a recount, and a hand recount exposed that Biden's numbers were inflated by 1,200 votes. With the difference of roughly 10,000 votes, Biden was still declared a victor. But throughout this process, Trump really wanted to make sure that the Dems weren't up to their dirty games. So, he called people who had their feet on the ground to make sure there was no foul play in the recount. And in this case, it is being viewed as Trump having quote-unquote influenced officials. Folks, Obama influenced the FBI to go easy on Hillary. He also pushed for state agencies to spy on Trump back when he was a private person.
This is an investigation of the investigations. This is an investigation into the work that the FBI did in spying, for lack of a better word, on the Trump campaign back in 2016. This has been a thorn in the side of many Republicans for many, many years now, because Republicans believed that the FBI had relied on information that they knew was false, should have known was false. They took information that was not vetted to our FISA courts, which are our secret courts that allow U.S. law enforcement to spy on their own citizens. So this is one of the things that gets sort of the very heart of the matter right now for Republicans in Washington, D.C., which is the politicization of the government against its political enemies, and the belief that the Obama administration, which was in charge at the time, used the FBI to try and get Donald Trump before he was president.
That's the problem, folks. When a Republican does anything, they view it as an intentional act of treason. But when the Dems are treasonous by design, they sweep it under the rug. If Hillary had requested a recount and called Dems to make sure blue votes weren't being tossed, the story would be about a woman who fights for what is hers. And when Trump tried to make sure he wasn't being held down by the deep state, he's being buried in an avalanche of indictments. We knew that there was a plan to prevent Trump from running for office a second time. They will do everything to stop him. The question is, do these indictments matter? When the Russiagate investigation started, I told you that the investigation didn't matter. The result does. But the media was already acting as if Trump was labeled guilty. The investigation led to nothing. And Russiagate was eventually exposed as a nothing burger taken up by the FBI because of liberal bureaucratic pressure.
316-page report is devastating for those who push the Russian collusion lie for 4 years. The Democrats and the media's complicity in this saga have been, well demonstrated, but this report found the FBI should never have launched its investigation, and that it had no real evidence before it launched its probe, and it knew that.
Similarly, they lied about Donald Trump when they accused him of being involved in perverse acts in a hotel suite in Russia. The Dems alleged that Putin had a tape of Donald Trump with a prostitute. This, too, I said, was nothing but a lie.
But the details are absolutely shocking, like how the infamous P tape finally got circulated, the alleged tape where Trump was said to have gone to this hotel in Moscow, presidential suite, 2 prostitutes, and had them pee on him and or a bed that Barack Obama once slept in. It was all a lie. It was all a lie. And now we know that the person who got that started was a Hillary Clinton ally who went over to the hotel, who met with the manager, who saw the presidential suite, and now we know the presidential suite never hosted a Donald Trump, ever. He went to the hotel years ago, stayed in a different hotel room altogether. This guy, Hillary Clinton's ally, came back to the States, gave this information to this guy, Danchenko, who then made sure it wound up in the Steele dossier, and it was used to hurt Trump, to get subpoenas, warrants, so on. Absolute crazy fraud was committed, and no one seems to care. They're much more interested in Giuliani's weird sex accuser.
And while the entire media circus surrounding this made-up scenario got plenty of people to believe that Trump was compromised, it too turned out to be a lie. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. But right now they're trying to fool us a third time. And sadly, many people are falling for it. People are already acting as if Trump is found guilty. Let's be clear. Trump was expecting an indictment. He knew this was coming because the Manhattan District Attorney and New York Attorney General had already pulled similar stunts. The clout-chasing Georgia DA, Fani Willis, is most famous for going after rappers. She has made a career out of slinging legal mud on stars, and while the Dems got their indictments, they could have gotten them 2.5 years ago. As the Trump campaign states, the Georgia DA slow-walked the process so it could impact Trump's 2024 election campaign. Remember, folks, when Hunter Biden's laptop revealed actual criminal stuff, the Dems gagged Twitter to prevent the sharing of any story about it. That's how far they'll go to keep the truth from coming out. But when it comes to Trump, they launch coordinated media campaigns to brand him a certain way. They did it with Russiagate. It led nowhere. They did it with the Russia tape. It led nowhere. And they're doing it now with multiple indictments. And it will lead nowhere. Many patriots are worried that Trump will be locked up or disqualified unfairly. But we know one thing. If there was enough substance to any of the indictments, the Dems wouldn't stir up a media frenzy. They know that the most they can get out of this legal circus is a few talking points. These are the same folks who stoop to the point of using sexual misconduct allegations to paint Trump a certain way, and none of those materialize to anything. Donald J. Trump is the most misjudged and harshly scrutinized individual in the United States. Dems have been in power for 4 years and have been frothing at the mouth to lock him up. If they had anything, he would have been charged by now. Here is what an indictment means. That allegations presented in a certain case have enough evidence to warrant an investigation. If I accuse you of stealing something from me but can't even prove that you were ever in the same city as me, there will be no indictment. The jury will decline to indict. But suppose you're my neighbor, and I can prove that you were seen crossing my house on the night of the break-in. A jury might find that to be enough to indict you. Does that mean you're a thief or a burglar? No. It just means that the case can actually begin. I still need to prove that you're a thief. But if I can't really prove it and want to damage your reputation, I'll go to the media and keep talking about how you're indicted in a case of theft. That's what the Dems are doing. They have yet to prove Trump guilty but are actually stalling the investigation and the trial process so it drags on. They want it to impact his perception during the crucial stages of his presidential campaign. But folks, I'm not worried. Donald Trump is immune to the progressive propaganda. Remember how in 2016 they got overpaid celebs together to campaign against Trump? They had even had rappers perform during Hillary's campaign events to pander to African-American voters. Still, Trump won, and Hillary decided to make a career out of explaining why she lost. If their propaganda didn't work back then, it's not going to work now. That said, every patriot has to vote as if he is the only voter. That's the only way to ensure a Trump presidency in 2025. If you thought the Dems were dirty in 2023, wait till you see what they have in store in 2024. By the time one of their lies is exposed, they have another one ready. So you have to immunize yourself and your family from the onslaught of false accusations and sensationalist propaganda against Trump. Liberals lost their quote-unquote right to kill babies, thanks to the way Trump handled the Supreme Court appointments. He is responsible for every life saved as a result of Roe v. Wade being overturned. Before this, progressives were fighting for the right to abortion up to the point of delivery. Just because conservatives relaxed their pro-life stance, the left moved further and further. The same happened with immigration. Right after pausing the wall's construction, the Dems started pushing for voting rights for illegal immigrants. They keep marching forward the moments we relax. If we relax on defending Trump, they will come after Lindsey Graham, Ted Cruz, and even Jeb Bush. The indictments against Trump mean nothing. The more they persecute and villainize him, the louder we must be in his support. This is Red Alert signing off.